Being an ultra runner is weird. When people think of long distance running, they tend to think 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, maybe a full marathon. Anything beyond a full marathon is considered ultra running. 50Ks, 50 milers, 100 miles, heck, even 200 miles. It starts at 26.2 miles. A full marathon is just the warm-up lap. On a random trip to Colorado, I stumbled across the Leadville 100, one of the oldest and most challenging ultra races in existence. It starts on a mountain at the top of the highest elevated city in America, runs down the valley, then runs up the tallest 14er in America, then just for fun, you get to turn around and do it all over again. From the moment I came across this utterly absurd event, I knew I was going to do it. I told myself, if I could do the Leadville 100, I could do anything. See, I wasn't a really big fan of myself or my life back then. I got married at 22 to my high school sweetheart, but things never really felt right. I always worried that I had a bunch of potential, but I could never really focus my brain long enough to accomplish anything of worth. I was always super hard on myself, like I needed to just do something to prove myself to myself. Running Leadville became that thing. Small problem though, you see, I'd never really been athletic. I failed every team sport growing up. I was a marching band kid, the theater kid, the kid who had just trouble making friends. As an adult, I was overweight and I ate like a 12-year-old. I had zero business running 3 miles, much less even thinking about running 100 at altitude up 2 damn mountains. So a month after I got home from the Colorado trip, I stumbled across a research study at the local college. Get paid to work out, it said. Well, it sounded too good to be true, but I took a chance and signed up, and I soon found myself on a treadmill running 5 days a week for the next 10 months. By the end of the study, I was $2,500 richer, but more importantly, I could also run almost 5 miles in about a half an hour. Even more importantly, I was 40 pounds lighter. I was a runner. You see, running reshaped my body, but the thing I didn't account for is how it was going to rewire my brain. When I was running, my brain was totally quiet. All I had to focus on was one foot in front of the other. The only problems that I had in life were when to drink water and when to eat a snack. The only thing I felt was calm. When I was running, the whole world slowed down for me, and I was happy, really, truly happy, for what felt like the first time in my entire life. So, I decided to run a half marathon. My best friend had done the study too, and our birthdays were about a week apart or so, so we decided to celebrate by running a half marathon together. Well, somehow along the way, that idea kind of morphed into doing a half marathon for every year we'd been alive. So we proceeded to spend the next year running 30 half marathons. Every weekend we'd pick a different route, wake up early on a Saturday morning, and go run 13.1 miles. For 30 weekends. Oh, there were plenty of weekends when we were tired and sore and feeling sorry for ourselves, like what the hell was this stupid harebrained idea we had come up with? But we sucked it up and we kept moving. Somewhere along the way, we adopted the ultra runner mentality. My first ultra was actually an accident. The Trailhawks Fat Ass was a loosely organized, run-what-you-want event. It was a 5-mile loop course. I thought I was just going to go out and do 2 loops and then hang out with my friends. But my friend Colleen had other things in mind. I went out and I finished my 2 loops, and then I bellied up to the snack table, ready to relax and hang out. And Colleen just kind of had a look in her eye. If you can run 30 half marathons, "You can run an ultra." And then her tone changed, and she promptly yelled at me, "Get your ass out of the aid station and back onto the course." She proceeded to drag me through the forest for another 4 laps, refusing to let me stop every time the chips and the cookies smelled oh so good. I don't really remember the last lap. We stopped and took a photo to commemorate. I finished and promptly collapsed into a heap on the ground. Colleen just laughed and yelled at me, "Get the hell up and keep walking, you idiot. You'll freeze up." What I soon learned was even in the ultra world, in accomplishment, there was no rest. I started running with the Trailhawks regularly. Then I became the Saturday long run leader. Before long, I was leading groups of runners through the woods for hours and hours on end. Inevitably, these people became friends, then family, as we shared dozens of hours together each week. Well, now that I had a community of people to help, running 100 miles seemed a lot more doable. My Saturday mornings were long 5 or 6 hour runs, covering 20 to 30 miles every week. I was running 4 to 5 days a week, then discovered I needed to start strength training. So, runs started bookending multi-hour gym sessions. My entire world became running to work, working, running to the gym, working out, and then running home. After a few years of this, in 2016, I signed up for the Hawk 100, the Trailhawks annual race. The course was on trails that I trained on every week. It was put on by all of my friends, so I knew I'd have supportive, friendly faces at every aid station. It was the perfect setup, the perfect step to get me closer to that ultimate dream of running at Leadville. Things started to go off the rails a little bit in January. Well, the band I'd been in for 5 years or so broke up. Okay, that sucks, but more time to train and run, right? In March of 2016, I ran 91.27 miles in a 3-day stage race in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I won a painted river rock for my efforts. I was thrilled. I was getting so close to that ultimate dream of running 100 miles at Leadville. In April of 2016, my marriage fell apart and we got divorced. By then I was running 80 to 90 miles a week, which meant I was gone from home probably 95% of the time. It also meant that I had a lot of time to think about my relationships and come to grips with how unhappy I had been in my marriage. Ultra running had really only driven that point home even more as I found the calm inside and the mental strength that I never knew I had before. Okay, so marriage gone. Not great, but hey, now I had nothing standing in the way of the goal, right? All I had to do in life was work and run. One Saturday, I just went out on a routine 30-mile training run. 20 miles in, something happened. I started to feel off. I had no push, no extra gear. I was by myself, so I did what ultra runners do when things get tough. I didn't stop. I just started power hiking and I drank some water. But then my chest got really tight and my breathing started to get a little labored. So I drank some water and kept moving forward. It'll pass. Then stabbing pains started to shoot down my arm and I got really dizzy. So I finally stopped fully, sat down, drank some water, and waited for it to pass. After a little while it did, so I did what ultra runners do, and I slowly power hiked the next 10 miles home. The next day, I went to the gym like normal, worked out for an hour, and then went home. Except my chest started to get tight again, just like it had the day before. So, I drank some water, called it an early night. I just needed some sleep. Except I couldn't sleep. With each passing moment, an elephant sat down a little more on my chest. My breathing got shorter and shorter and shorter. Finally, after about 3 hours or so, I started to panic. As it turns out, just drinking water doesn't solve every problem. It was 2 in the morning by then, and I started to think that I needed to go to the ER. I had just gotten divorced, so money was really tight. I didn't want to take an ambulance. So who could give me a lift? Well, flipping through my phone, it turns out I didn't actually have any of my running friends' phone numbers. So I did what ultra runners do. I ignored the wrecking ball that was crushing my sternum, and I drove myself to the ER. When I got to the ER, they threw me in a wheelchair and hooked me up to a blood pressure cuff right away. Except then they frowned, and they wheeled in another blood pressure machine. Then they frowned again and brought in a third one. I didn't really realize it until later, but they thought every machine was throwing false readings. My BP was 220 over 120. Off the charts. For the first time, the words heart attack started to enter my ears. And I thought, oh shit, am I about to die? See, the thing was, I was 33. 33-year-olds don't have heart attacks. What the hell? I spent the next 3 days in cardiac ICU in a haze of drugs and tests. The first cardiologist told me that I had to stop running immediately, and that if I ran the 100-mile race in the next 3 months, I would probably die. Of course, I didn't believe her, so I went and got a second opinion. Running was the only thing I had at that point in my life, the only goal in my entire life that ever really mattered. As it turns out, the foremost cardiologist in the nation for ultra runners was local. He started doing some research on the effects of ultra running on runners' hearts after he heard reports of ultra runners just randomly falling over dead in the middle of their runs. How could these examples of incredible levels of fitness just die suddenly with no explanation? Well, their hearts, like mine, got thick and hardened. You see, your heart, like any other muscle, it develops as you train it. I'd spent 8 years training my heart to endure long distances and many, many hours. Now, the gift of genetically high blood pressure meant that every time I ran, I was pushing my heart all the way up to the limit, and then I was holding that limit for hours and hours on end. It scarred from pressure and the endurance. Finally, it just ran out of room to grow and started to harden inward, jacking up my blood pressure. If you do that long enough, your heart will simply give up, like mine tried to. I lost half my friends in the divorce. I lost the other half from the heart attack. In the course of 3 days in the ICU, only one running friend, Jeff Keel, came to say hi. Nobody else reached out. I was damaged goods, a reminder of their own mortality. I felt completely isolated. I lost my passion, my community, my sense of self. Suddenly I had all of the time in the world to do anything I wanted, but the only thing I wanted to do would kill me if I did it. I had come so close to my goal, the thing that I had worked for years to accomplish, and I had failed. I had to fail. If I didn't fail, I would have died. Failing is the only reason I'm standing before you today. In January of 2017, I finally worked up the confidence to go back to my old gym. I wanted to see my old gym friends, get into a workout routine again. I wanted to work really hard and get back into shape, get back to running. But like an ultra runner, I pushed too hard, too fast, and I herniated a disc in my lower back. Like an ultra runner, I tried to ignore it and kept working out for the next several months. Eventually, sitting down caused shooting pain down my leg. Slowly, I lost function of my left leg from the disc pinching my sciatic nerve. Walking became a labor. My entire leg atrophied, and I lost more and more ability to be independent. Rock bottom for me wasn't heart attacks. Rock bottom for me was back surgery. I stayed with my parents, lying on their couch for 2 months after surgery. I couldn't move without assistance. I couldn't use the bathroom on my own. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't clothe myself. A year earlier, I was capable of running 90 miles a week on my own. Now, I was a 34-year-old man whose mother had to hold him up in the shower and help him wash his body. That 2 months of my life was really the first time I was forced to be still. I was forced to take a look at what my life had been, who I was as a human, and to reassess the relationships that I wanted to have. I had to confront the selfish, egotistical, shitty husband that I had been. I had to accept responsibility for the single-minded focus that I had on running 100 miles, and how I had completely neglected everything else in my life in pursuit of that goal. I laid on that couch, battered, broken, literally bruised, and I felt like I had absolutely nothing left in life. While I was recovering from back surgery, the Hawk 100 happened again. This year, a runner collapsed on the course and died. His heart just gave out. That was almost me, on the exact same trails. It was a really stark reminder of what I'd be risking if I ever tried again. Now, I wish I could tell you a happy fairy tale ending of happily ever after, but the truth is, life just really sucked for a few years. Slowly, with therapy and a lot of patience, it did start to get better. Now, in the years since, I've come to realize a few things. First, 98% of the things that we worry about in life really just do not matter. What matters to me now are the relationships that I have and the people I surround myself with. I talk to my parents and my brother almost every day. I have friends and coworkers here tonight supporting me. None of them knew me then, and are hearing this story for the first time. I have an incredible partner who I met in the suck years and who has let me stand by their side for the past 4 years, building a great new life together. Secondly, you never know what someone is going through. It costs so very little to be kind and understanding, to reach out and check on a fellow human being. My heart's better now. I'm not an ultra runner anymore, but the lessons that I learned from it are still with me. The drive, the belief in myself. I still push too hard sometimes, but I know my limits now. I know that running 100 miles would be risking death. I don't need to do that. I won't do that. But damn, do I still really want to.